Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka Podcast!
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot!
Welcome, everybody, back to Baka. Whether this is your first time or you're returning, or it's your first time returning, it doesn't really matter. We're glad you're here because we are having one of our famous minisodes. They're very famous in the fact that nobody pays attention to them but us. That's the way we like it. And you who are listening, because you came for this deep subject matter. Before we get into it, let's introduce my co-host. By the way, I'm Troy, and I will be your director for this night's festivities. Yeah, that works. Okay, so we have the bad English in my dub. Hey, Jeremy, how's it going?
Conducting.
You can't do that to me, man. I wasn't ready for that. You're supposed to be the not funny one, remember?
Well, believe me, I know.
You say, hey, I can't do improv, and then you hit me like that. Okay,
I know. I was planning.
Recovering. Then we have the crazy wires to my stunts. What's up, Jason?
Woo! Doing all good.
You made it to 2 episodes. We're proud of you.
You know what? I can't keep this kid friendly and tell you what I want to say. So, moving on.
I just let everyone know that a couple episodes ago we did talk about some facts about you. I'm not going to say who said them because we don't want to point fingers and blame, but we all do feel bad about your small feet.
Well, you know what they say about small feet. Small shoes.
You had a beard story to tell. Did you want to hit me with it real quick?
So, you and I had the unfortunate event of going to the same funeral together for our grandfather. And while we were there, one of my friends came up and they hadn't seen me in a while. They commented on my beard and said that it looked nice. And then they turned to you and they said, "Oh, I see you're trying to grow one as well." And then they walked away and you had a tear running down your chin.
My wife held me like
and I was like, "What's wrong?" You like, "I've been trying this for 5 years."
It's a 5-year-old beard. Not trying. This is where okay.
This is where you are after 5 years.
Maybe not succeeding very well, but I'm past trying. This is where I am.
This is what we've come up with.
Guys, you did not come for beard talk, but I do hope you enjoyed that story. If it doesn't get edited out. We are actually here to talk about an anime subject. We are talking about animes that have been adapted into live action. And Jason, you came up with this topic. So what got this on your brain?
Well, I was watching a movie review for a different movie that I actually really enjoyed. And it was off-the-cuff joke about Dragonball Evolution, which I don't know anyone on the planet actually enjoyed that movie.
I'm sure it'll come up more.
And it just got me thinking, why do adaptations from anime usually end up so bad? Like, we've had adaptations from comic books, we've had adaptations from American cartoons, we've had adaptations from stories from Disney, and some of them go off fairly well, some of them don't go too well. Like Blood Rain, I don't know if you ever saw the live action of that. That was just...
Yes.
Yeah.
If you bull touches it, I don't.
I got about halfway through, and I was literally doing other things. I was like, why am I watching? I'm so bored. And I never finished it. But anyways, that was what I wanted to talk about tonight, is like, are there good examples of good adaptations? And what is the problem? What's the problem with the translation from anime to live action?
Okay. let's start off with just some talking about the ones we've seen and giving overall thoughts about it. You want to start us off, Jeremy?
So, I have very little experience in watching live-action anime, at least that I can remember. And if I can't remember them, I guess that just goes in the category of really bad. And maybe I'll notice them if you guys happen to say them and I recall. But the only ones I really remember are the area that I watched just to research before we did our area preparation episode, where we were just kind of getting the hang of a podcast.
That's right.
And yeah, I watched that. That was probably the only one I've ever watched completely. I watched part of Dragon Ball Evolution, and I just, yeah.
Oh, so you're not a true Dragon Ball fan.
We're throwing that on the table, are we?
Oh god, that's not Dragon Ball. They may use the names, but that's where it ends. Nothing else has to do with the characters. So I had to go in and look at, top lists, worst lists, lists of 50 of them. I had no idea how many of them have been, since the 1970s, they've been making adaptations from anime and manga. I had no idea of that. So, it's a huge catalog.
Japan seems to make a lot, and we will talk about Japan versus America. We'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, they seem to definitely enjoy adapting because anime is such a bigger deal there. Like it's growing here, but in Japan, I mean that's the norm.
Oh yeah.
No other movies you can think of?
No, I honestly can't think of any others. And as far as the good and the bad about like Iria, I gotta say it was great, but that's because I'm a fan of the Iria anime, so I'm naturally biased to it. I'm forgiving. It taught me things about that world that I didn't already know, filled in some things that needed to be there to make sense of it. Had I watched it on its own without knowing that it was from an anime and filling in the gaps, I don't think I would have liked it. It would have been one of those B movies where you're like, I watched it just so I could say I watched it and I could joke about it with my friends, but it in no way does it involve or immerse you.
Okay. How about you, Jason?
The first one that I ever watched was Blood Plus, and that was right after watching the full anime series, which I just adored that anime series. And I watched the live action, and I know there's got to be some fans out there that are going to just be pissed, but it was.
Now I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I haven't seen this one, and I do remember seeing the trailers. In anime, there's a movie, Blood the Last Vampire, and then there's actually multiple animes, but then the Blood Plus is like the biggest Blood anime series. What the live action, which one was it? Was it the Blood Plus or the Blood Last Vampire?
It was a weird in between. That was the problem. It was almost non-canon the way it was shown and filmed, because they couldn't do some of the things that she did. Like, her blood wasn't necessary to kill the monsters. Also, the monsters weren't like the traditional monsters from the anime. And the action fighting sequence was obviously like cut together, and like she was awkward. It was nearly as bad as Blood Rain as far as like I'm not an action actress, but I was typecast because I'm Asian. Obviously, we don't need to really talk about DBZ.
You know what? We do need to talk about DBZ.
Well, apparently DBZ is the only one of mine that's actually a legitimate anime adaptation, because Iria was movie first, so that doesn't even count.
No, I think that was a lack of translation by the directors. I don't think that had a lot to do with storytelling. Because
I don't think he even knows Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
I don't think he knew what he was making.
Exactly. That would be like my neighbor trying to make a Lord of the Rings movie when he's never read the books. Mm-hmm. The other one that was a joy to watch, but awful, was Guyver. That funny note. Why am I spacing on his name? Luke Skywalker, Mark
Hamill.
Mark Hamill's in that movie. In Guyver.
Really?
Yeah. it's just so awful. It felt like the second Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with but wanting to be adult, but wasn't.
Now this is the first Guyver, or is it the second one? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then Fist of the North Star. That was a failure of translation again. And I wonder, as I'm talking about it, if that happens to be a lot of what is going on with these movies, is that you get a director that's not a fan of the franchise or just doesn't know the source material, and they try and make a movie out of it because they know it's popular.
I think you're exactly right. I was actually reading things about Fist of the North Star because I have seen the anime, but I've never seen the live action adaptation. And it just, when I watched the trailer and everything, it looked like Mad Max, Waterworld, some other post-apocalyptic, really funny one from that era. And what I read was, you tell me if you thought this too, it felt like the villains were like Power Ranger villains where you couldn't take them seriously, and the fight scenes were not action-packed and violent. They felt more mediocre and generic fight scenes is what I was hearing a lot and reading a lot about that one. Coincidentally, both of those you listed, Guyver and Fist of the North Star, are on like the 10 worst list that I happened to find. Fist of the North Star is second only to Dragon Ball. So,
cool.
Was there any redeeming qualities in Dragon Ball? I just want something in it to be good, and I don't know why. It hurts me that it's so bad. I'm like, well, maybe that one actor. No.
I think it hurts so bad because you're worried that it kills all future prospects of ever getting another try where they do a good job. Yeah. If they couldn't at least get something.
So here's an example, right? You have, what was it? 3 different franchises of Spider-Man. You walk into Spider-Man and you know a couple things about him. His name's going to be Peter Parker. He's going to wear a mask, and he's going to swing around on webs, and he's going to save the day. Those expectations need to be met, or you're not watching a traditional Spider-Man movie, and you're coming away from the source material. You walk into Dragon Ball Z, and you go, okay, I'm going to meet a character named Goku. He's going to be a Saiyan. He's going to be able to
go to high school.
Do these great.
No, that's not right.
Nope, not high school.
And thus, why people didn't like the second adaptation from Sony of Spider-Man, because Peter Parker was a popular high school kid that was getting the girls and was super street smart. Peter Parker was not those things in the comics, and thus fell away from the source material. And that's what happened with Goku in Dragon Ball Evolution, is that not only was he not badass, he was not physically physique for the character either, but he wasn't that tenacious facade with, or not facade, but tenacious individual with a hint of innocence. And I think that's what people really find about Goku as endearing, is that his innocence, but also his tenaciousness and his ability to overcome any obstacle.
So I'm gonna give Dragon Ball Evolution one thing. It's not even really a compliment because they still did it wrong. But I don't know how anyone ever makes a live adaptation of Dragon Ball and gets Goku's hair to look good. Some things work in anime that will never, ever translate to real. And that is a lot of those haircuts. And Goku's is so iconic that you can't not have it, and there's no way to translate the 3-4 spikes in opposite directions with the flat part in the middle. It's how do you make that work? And I felt like they got as close as anyone maybe could. So is that a thing? Nice hair, kind of, not really though.
Yeah, no, not really. Not good enough.
Any more, Jason?
No, those are the ones that I've seen.
You guys are missing some great ones. You missed my favorite before we get to that, I've seen the Japanese live version adaptation of Death Note and really liked it. It's two movies. It's 2 movies, and it's not as good as the anime, to be fair. But I felt like it was good for Japanese cinematography, which I don't think quite matches up to Hollywood's standards yet, which is fine. It fixes a major plot problem in Death Note. Death Note has a moment where it jumps the shark and has a hard time dealing with it after that. And this fixed that problem story-wise, and I actually prefer the way the live-action movie ends. Very much so. So I do recommend that. And I think they're making an American version. So it'll be interesting because Ryuk is also one of those things that might not translate well because he obviously has to be CGI. He's the big death god that follows the main character around. And he's a little off-putting in that adaptation because he's very clearly CGI, and I don't even know if American CGI can get it. But who knows?
Death Note was coincidentally on the top 10.
Oh, good. Good for me.
Yeah. Good. You got lucky.
Okay, so I'm going to say this one that I actually really like this one, and it's an American one. And for what it was, I thought they did a good job. Speed Racer. Did anybody else like the Speed Racer movie?
You know, I watched a preview for it. Today I spent like 2 hours watching trailers for these just to try and get something to talk about. And I've heard really good things. It became a cult classic, but it was like panned by the critics, I guess. But yes, now everybody watches it and they love it.
I assume most people don't like it when I talk to people, but I've always enjoyed that movie. I used to watch the old Speed Racer anime cartoon with my dad because he used to watch it as a kid and he showed it to me. So I was like, oh, it's old, so it's not a great anime. So it didn't have a whole lot to do to match up to it, but it fit the certain elements right. It was campy. And the Wachowskis, probably one of the best to do anime adaptations because the first time I saw a live action movie and I thought, oh my gosh, this is anime in real life was The Matrix. I remember going to The Matrix and watching that kung fu fight and being like, I'm watching anime for real.
Yeah.
I think I even turned to my parents and said that, guys, this is anime.
Yeah.
and they looked at me weird and like, you mean Japanese cartoons? One I'm actually looking forward to, guys, you've seen the trailer for the new Ghost in the Shell?
Yes.
Yeah.
With Scarlett Johansson. So, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of a spiel here. If you look back at old comic book movies, the 80s versions of Captain America, the Fantastic Four, Hulk, who played Nick Fury? David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury in his own movie. Like, wow. Things have struggled to get to where they are. Like, look, they got comic book movies right now. Even when they don't, they're still way better than they used to be. It takes time, and I think anime just might be newish here and not have a big enough audience to put the money and the time. You know, I heard Leonardo DiCaprio wanting to do Akira, and I'm pretty sure that fell through. But if you get something like that behind it, I think then we're going to get the anime movies we want. And I do think anime movies are here in a different form. So has anyone seen Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise?
Oh, yeah.
Live, Die, Repeat. That's based on a Japanese light novel, which, you know, those usually turn into animes all the time. So that movie, in its own twisted way, could be an anime adaptation, right?
Right, it jumped the anime part straight to movie from light novel.
But that movie worked. I don't think it's, you know, win on the Oscars, but at least I thought it was a fun movie. It was a good movie. I enjoyed watching Tom Cruise run. I may have told you guys too much.
Spoiler alert.
And, you know, the Matrix, Pacific Rim, we're seeing movies with heavy anime influences, at least, as like signaling that, hey, we got you. And this Ghost in the Shell might be the start that we're waiting for.
It could be. Yeah, I actually really look forward to it, of course. But I do think that I don't know how much you guys have seen of live action adaptations. I know, like I mentioned myself, I haven't seen hardly any. So I had to do some research, and I saw how many there are and how many people say are fantastic and versus how many people say are not. And it actually is a whole lot closer to even than it seems. But a lot of them are also very old. And so what winds up being the case is, like you say, we have the technology now to use the special effects and maybe have some of the right actors and actresses to portray the action scenes and the crazy sci-fi elements that are often present in anime. But back when they didn't have these things, they took feudalistic ones. Like they have one that was called it's called Lady Snowblood. And this one was so good that it's actually what inspired Kill Bill. Quentin Tarantino made Kill Bill because of Lady Snowblood. They had, like you say, Speed Racer. There was another one, Lone Wolf and Cub, Sword of Vengeance in 1972, followed up by 5 more movies because it was so successful for that anime.
So most of these good ones, though, are Japanese remakes, right?
Yeah, which I don't know what the, how do you guys view the difference between them? Because to me, they're all in one big pool of like, this is a live action adaptation. Maybe these people or these people, but how would you define it?
I kind of already said it before. I do think Hollywood is steps ahead of every other nation's cinematography, with maybe Britain right behind. And Japan is pretty good. I'm not saying I haven't seen movies from other countries that aren't great and amazing, but I do think, Hollywood has more money in it. I think that's really the big difference. And so CGI is going to look better. I've seen the trailer for the Assassination Classroom live action.
Yeah, I watched that too. The trailer.
And the CGI looks just awful. It stands out like a sore thumb. And then I just got done watching the Warcraft movie not too long ago, and the CGI, while you still fake, eye wrinkles and stuff, they're getting that in there. And they can do almost an entire race of an army of CGI where Japan's struggling with that one character. So I think there's my biggest differences. So I would like to see American movies made more and better, and I think we're on the verge of it. I think we're almost there. Like you said, people are being inspired by these animes to make stuff like Kill Bill. We're almost there.
No, I'm excited to see Ghost in the Shell, because not only did it feel very faithful to the very first movie, but it looked like they were bringing their own twist, and it looked believable in the trailer. So I think you guys are onto something. I think you guys are onto that. We're going to get away from those corny adaptations and more towards big budget productions based on these iconic storylines that, because that's the big problem that we see both in games and movies these days, that everything's for show and it's very shallow. I mean, look at No Man's Sky, beautiful game, huge budget. It's an ocean wide and an inch deep. But back in the day, we didn't have graphics to sell games, so we had amazing stories like Baldur's Gate and Ragnarok and
Albion.
The weird off-the-wall games that Jeremy mentioned.
Yes.
We don't have good graphics. We'll win them over with a great story, and they were great stories. And nowadays, you have Call of Duty and Battlefield.
Yep.
Right.
Are you throwing shade my way, sir?
Just saying. Skyrim tells a really great story.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we're back to Skyrim,
guys.
Special edition was out. Did you know that?
Yeah, you should get that.
If you would like to post
PC.
in the comments that you would never want to hear about Skyrim ever again, I would be eternally grateful.
Back to anime, though.
Jason,
you mentioned that you think it's an issue of how much the developer, or not the developer, it's not a game, how much the director actually knows his topic. And I know when I was looking over all the comments and why people liked things, why they didn't like other ones, I saw a lot of exactly what you're saying. But what I gathered was that there's a number of barriers to producing a good live adaptation from an anime. The first barrier would be, does the director even know what he's doing? Does he know the medium? Does he know the topic, the anime? But the second one would be, how about the actors? Are they good actors, or are they going to be corny actors? You don't have to worry about that when you're writing an anime, or, drawing an anime, because you can draw the acting. All you need is good voice actors. But these guys have to act. So that's another barrier. And then on top of that, you have what you were talking about, Troy, with the special effects. Is it believable? And then you have, well, what kind of anime are we presenting? Are we going to try to get across relationships? Or are we trying to get across a crazy, tragic story? Or is it a comedy? And all of those things, they still have to stay faithful to a pre-existing script and adapt it. So is the adaptation going to be satisfactory? Or are people going to say, where is the main character from Attack on Titan? Why is he not in the movie?
I heard that was a bad adaptation too.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's multiple barriers to trying to make a good live adaptation.
Do you think the tropes in anime are a barrier when they have to come over to live action, that they just don't translate well? Like Goku's hair, but even,
I think hair is a huge one. I think clothes are a huge one. I think just the exaggerated, really energetic appearance of how exotic the anime characters are is really difficult to duplicate without looking cheesy. Black Butler looked great, but it apparently didn't work out well because they replaced the 12-year-old boy with a teenage girl in an attempt to kind of maybe incite some kind of teenage romance between the Black Butler and his charge.
But there was already an implied romance.
Right.
Take away the anime yaoi. My daughters will riot.
But see, and that was the thing, is that there was a special relationship. I don't know the details, but apparently there was a special relationship between the butler and the 12-year-old boy that was completely lost because they replaced a character for whatever agenda that the person had.
Well, I'm looking at Bash the Stampede behind you, and I'm like, how do you even bring him to the real world?
Yeah, just try.
Well, same way they're doing it with Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell, it was so gritty and grounded. I think it'll be a lot easier to translate.
I guess that's true. I mean, look at Battle Royale, though. What, Battle Royale High School?
Was that ever an anime? I know it was a book.
I thought it was an anime first, wasn't it?
I don't know about a Battle Royale anime. I know there's animes that are similar in nature, but I don't think I've ever heard of a Battle Royale anime. I did love the Battle Royale movie, though. I love Japanese cinematography. I'm not against it.
And then another one that was a great anime and got lost in translation.
Oh, and that one should be easy to do because that wasn't all tropey either. That
exactly.
You guys, we are still watching Alderamin on the Sky.
Very good.
You did this just to punish me for making you watch the 90
That's all I can do. That's all I can do.
Also, you broke the rule of having a number in the title.
It's my revenge.
We went three animes with numbers in the title, and now nothing. Forever lost.
Just have to make do.
So we're still watching that, and I hope you are watching it and enjoying it as well. We will be talking about that next week, and we hope you will join us. If you have thoughts on live-action movies you've seen, recommendations for us, because I'd actually love to see some more, hit us up and in the comments. You can reach us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast or our email, theanimebakaclub@gmail.com, or leave a comment wherever you found this episode, whether it be YouTube or whatever social media site you prefer to use. Any last thoughts, guys?
Have a great day.
Have a good night.
Sayonara.